All right, good. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about Magento 2.4. Um, any highlights, Vinai or Deryck, on 2.4? I know I have a couple that I'm a little bit excited about, and some that. Oh, okay, let me just start it off. So the web installer is no longer part of Magento 2.4, which,
Oh, darn it.
yeah, I mean, honestly, just to set it up really quick, it was super easy.
Mhm.
And I think for the commercial version, anyways, the Elasticache is now the default search engine, which is exciting, but it does add another step for setting up your local environment. Those are two of my comments. I don't know if what are you feelings around that, and is there anything that's exciting for you in that?
Well, what's exciting for me is that it's no longer required to add all those patches to be able to use Baylor for front-end bundling of the classic Magento 2 front end. So the JavaScript bundling with Baylor has become a bit less painful to set it up in continuous integration. You no longer need as many composer patches in there. So that's nice. But to be fair, in 2.3.5, there only was one patch left anyway that needed to be applied for Baylor to be able to work successfully, right? That's about the JavaScript bundling to make the front end more, get a better Lighthouse score in effect. Personally, I'm kind of sad to just see the complexity of the stack increase, like, okay, now you have to install this and you have to install this and so on. In my mind, a good architecture still means everything just works with no additional stack, just give it a file system and the scripts, and then you can use a database if you want to. And if you want to, you can use Elastic or Redis or whatever. But it should work with the problem that I have with using this, baking technologies in a fixed way like that, right? It basically, not only does it make setting up a development environment more complex, which probably just means everybody will now use one of the prefabricated development environments and no longer set up their own, right? There are some Docker images or Vagrant images that people simply will use. But it also has an influence on the architecture. So the whole product suddenly starts molding itself on a code level to this product, and that makes future development changes less easy. So if it would be possible to just use, let's say, if performance doesn't matter, why can't people use just a file system, just plain old files? There are great examples where that works, right? There's no reason technically why that shouldn't be possible. Just, of course it would be slow. It wouldn't be something that should be suggested for a live site, but it would keep the architecture cleaner. That's my opinion, at least, right? So yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, I think, was it Lizards and Pumpkins that you developed a long time or a while
Yeah,
ago?
that was like 5 years
Same.
ago. Right.
Okay. So sort of all static, high volume site that could withstand tons of traffic.
Yeah, that was a nice project that I enjoyed a lot. But those are ideas that's not my ideas, right? It's just ideas that just kind of make sense to me. And just saying, oh, we'll just use Elasticsearch and then we'll have less development overhead, having to support MySQL and so on. And yeah, I guess, but I think the real issue is that it's just the exploding complexity that it brings with it. There's nothing forcing it to stay simple.
Right. Yeah. So I think Madeline has shared one of the latest blog posts that just kind of gives the 5 highlights. I mean, there's certainly a lot more than 5 things on here, but the security, there are security enhances, and I think one specific thing is a 2-factor authentication now that's part of it. And I've used it and it works quite well out of the box.
I think one of the features that is going to be, which probably from a development point of view is probably not noticed that much. I think from a merchant point of view and from a content management point of view is noticed a lot and has always been slightly deficient, which is the media gallery. And so they've done a revamp of that. Now I've not seen it in action yet, so I still want to have a play with it. But that's always been a frustration of mine, is the media gallery and managing that gallery. And someone puts something in the wrong place in there, tough. Unless you want to go through a whole exercise in deleting images, finding where they've been used, replacing them. So just seeing that there's an improvement on that, and I think that they've integrated it more into Adobe Stock as well, so that's which it had been, but I think it's more so now. So I think that's from a merchant point of view, from a content management point of view, that should be a fairly significant improvement. I just hope it's been thought through as much more than things like when in Page Builder they decide to put templates in, but you can't go and edit your templates and you can't go and change them once you've created them. So it's hopefully there's that flexibility in there. But we'll see. I'm sure that whatever they've done, it's got to be an enhancement. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll see. Well, we'll see improved performance. Lazy loading is one thing that they mentioned is they're adding as something, and I think from a performance standpoint that they will be decoupling the front end of Magento soon. So as Vinai said, it'll become even more complex, having to have a front end that attaches to the back end. Vinai, the Karmas tools. I think you feel like Magento's kind of going down that road, or we're just going to have a bunch of. I know they've talked about isolated services, and that eventually we're going to have a bunch of different services that we can run independently.
That's what I've heard. I have no idea if that's going to happen or if that's going to be impactful for most merchants running on Magento, or if it's just going to be for maybe a handful of extremely large merchants. I don't know. For me, that doesn't really matter a lot, to be honest. If it can, if we can deploy them as individual services or not. Again, skyrocketing complexity there. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Deryck already went over some advanced these merchant tools. Sort and filter pictures 30 times faster, which I'm not sure if that matters maybe from the back end it matters. I don't think we're going to get 30 times faster on the front end. But I do feel like some of the inventory things are doing, they are kind of melding some of the order management items that traditionally have been in a different platform into Magento now. So we should see like in-store pickup and those type of things that will be more part of it. Certainly multi-store inventory has already been integrated, and we'll see some more in the future. I think we're going to see even more enhancements around that. From a commercial standpoint, B2B continues to improve. And I think from a B2B standpoint, Magento is really shining above the competitors. But again, that's a commercial, that's for the commercial version only. There are ways you can piece together B2B through the open source version. And then I think the final one on there is PWA. So it's probably still yet to be seen if PWA is going to be the answer. And maybe Isa would be the person we should have on this call at some point to talk about that. I know he's been very invested in that whole different types of PWAs that are available and how can we attach those. Yeah, so that's the highlights on 2.4. We don't have time to go through all of them, but certainly there is some features there that would have value to the end user. All right. Any other thing? Anything else you guys want to talk about on this new version that's coming out next week?
I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you've kind of covered the highlights there. So yeah, I'm hoping, there'll be a whole load of, there'll be a whole load of minor tweaks in there as well that obviously not listed in this. So I know there's been a few improvements on Page Builder as well to improve things on there. I know that there's a bit of demand on the Page Builder side for getting it compatible with iPads, tablets even, which seems to be a bit of an issue at the moment. So we'll see whether that has resolved, the issue's been addressed in 2.4. But yeah.
And I think, the trend seems to be that the commercial version is getting all the bells and whistles, while the open source version continues to, remain what it is. And it's certainly a good platform for selling things. Then all the new features and bells and whistles are going to be on the commercial version.
Well, there are some things that definitely get built into the open source version. So what I was excited about is the whole queuing framework, async framework that was built into Magento in 2.3, for example, which used to be just the commercial version, now has basically entered into the mainline open source as well, which is great. That's a good technical solution to many issues, so that's nice. Plus all the open source work that happens in on GitHub through community engineering always will be in open source, right? But of course you're right, there is a less of an incentive to build on open source, since the complexity is like, there's a merchant who can invest into building on Magento will be able to afford commerce, right? Like, that's why even bother then using open source there. Yeah.
All right, so what we should end that little section on an up note. Very exciting that we can it's available. It'll be, Deryck and I are going to do an unboxing ceremony of 2.4 on I think whatever day they have it launching. Is it the 28th or the 27th that they're launching? I should probably have that in front of me, but we will be doing a unboxing on the day that it launches. And go ahead, Vinai.
The blog post said the 28th. Your blog post.
Yeah.
Great. Well, hopefully we got it right. So I think we have it for 9 or 10 o'clock on the on that date, 28th.